Yo, I'm Miles. Nice to meet you. He's all. Good morning, although technically it's the middle of the night for us. So actually a pretty straightforward one. It started as a basic way to wish someone a good start to their day, likely back in the 1800s. Not a lot of secret society stuff there, unfortunately. You ever use it as a sarcastic way to wake someone up? Let me dig into that. Turns out it goes back way further than the 1800s. We're talking 15th century and even earlier with Old English. Basically, people were just shortening phrases like, I wish you a good morning until it just became the standard. Funny how we've just been lazy with our language for hundreds of years. Ever notice how good night is the only one that's actually a goodbye? Probably because it's the first real interaction of the day. It's like setting the vibe for everything that follows. Plus, back in the day, the first meeting was usually the most important for coordinating the work or just making sure everyone survived the night. Think of it as the original stand up meeting. I can look that up. It's kind of wild how something we say a thousand times a day just becomes a habit. It started back in the 14th century as good Morway. Basically, it's just a shortcut for wishing someone a favorable start to their day. It's always just been about that positive vibe, too. There's actually a myth that it comes from morning, but that's just not true. I could tell you about how some other common greetings shifted over time if you're into that. It's basically a social lubricant. It just signals that you're friendly and open for conversation without actually having to commit to a full talk. Kind of like the modern head nod in the hallway. I'm pretty sure they do, but it probably looks way different depending on where you are. Some places might focus more on the vibe than the clock. Like in Persian, they don't really do the time-based thing, but then you've got Japanese Ohio gozaimasu, which is all about that morning respect. I can dive into how some of these greetings actually like signal your social status if you want. It's a whole spectrum. Some places are all about the formality, while others just want to know if you're awake. In Japanese, like I mentioned, you've got different levels of politeness depending on who you're talking to. Then you've got cultures in Nigeria, like the Yoruba, where the greeting changes not just by the time of day, but by who you're addressing. It's less about the clock and more about where you fit in the social hierarchy. Ever feel like you're overthinking the formality of a greeting? Probably because the morning is when we're all just starting the day's engine. It's that we're all in this together feeling before the chaos of the afternoon hits. Later on, it feels more like you're entering someone's flow. Morning's just a lower stakes way to acknowledge someone's existence. It's like a tiny low effort social contract that acknowledges that the other person is there and they're part of the same space. When you do it consistently, like with the same neighbor or the guy at the coffee shop, it builds this baseline of trust. You're not best friends, but you've established that you're both all of a community. Usually it's just a polite skin deep thing. But depending on the vibe, it can be a total power move or a way to show that you're actually paying attention to someone. Like a genuine good morning to someone who's clearly struggling can feel like a lifeline. Most of the time, though, we're just on autopilot. That's a deep cut. It's probably a mix of community values and just the way people used to live. A lot of early greetings were My bad, you cut me off. What were you saying? Let me see what I can find. Back then, it was way more about survival and trust. In ancient Greece and Rome, for example, a handshake wasn't just a polite gesture, it was a way to prove you weren't carrying a weapon. So a morning greeting was basically a way of saying, I'm not here to kill you today. Pretty high stakes compared to our morning coffee. I can tell you about some of the other weird ways people used to greet each other if you're into it. Yeah, for real. Of like besides the weapon check, some cultures had a whole thing with kissing on the cheek or even smelling each other's scent to show trust. It's wild how we've just boiled it down to morning in a half smile. It basically turned into a ritual. It's the way we mark the transition from home person to work person. Now it's more of a social check-in to see who's actually awake and who's just staring at their monitor until the caffeine kicks in. Late night. Totally. The tone is basically everything. A cheery good morning can be a total vibe, but a flat monotone one, that's basically a warning sign to leave someone alone. It's like a secret code for how the day is actually gonna go. Cool. It's basically turned it into a async greeting. Now we just drop a text or an emoji, and it's like we've checked the box for the day. Takes away that immediate face to face energy and replaces it with something you can answer whenever you're actually ready to face the world. Kind of removes the pressure, but also makes it feel a bit more like a chore sometimes. Wait, you're just cutting me off and dipping? Catch you later. My bad. I thought you were saying bye. It's mostly about that low effort way to stay on someone's radar. It's like a digital nudge that says, I'm thinking of you without having to actually start a real conversation. Plus, you're back. What's on your mind? Absolutely. It's like a tiny hit of dopamine. Just knowing someone noticed you and took a second to acknowledge you can pull someone out of a bad headspace. It's basically the easiest way to be a decent human being without actually having to do any heavy lifting. Usually, yeah. It's like the social version of leaving someone on red in real life. If someone goes out that you're either hating or just not in the mood for humans today. Okay. It varies a ton. In some places, it's practically a requirement. If you don't hit back with the right level of formality, it's a total breach of etiquette. In other cultures, it's more laid back. You can just nod and keep moving. It's basically a game of reading the room and knowing the unspoken rules of where you are. I doubt it'll disappear, but it'll definitely keep shifting. Language always evolves to be more efficient, so we might just end up with a single syllable or a new emoji that does all the work. But that basic need to acknowledge another person, that's not going wherever we go. I did. It was a deep dive into the most basic thing we say. Pretty cool way to spend.